"I bumped into Nick Ingram this morning," said Maggie, as she made a pot of tea in her mother's kitchen at Broxton House. It had been a beautiful room once, lined with old oak dressers, each one piled with copper pans and ornate crockery, and with an 8-foot-long 17th-century refectory table down its middle. Now it was merely drab. Everything worth selling had been sold. Cheap white wall and floor units had replaced the wooden dressers, and a moulded plastic excrescence from the garden stood where the monk's table had reigned resplendent. It wouldn't be so bad, Maggie often thought, if the room was cleaned occasionally. But her mother's arthritis and her own terminal exhaustion from trying to make money out of horses meant that cleanliness had long since gone the way of godliness. If God was in his heaven and all was right with the world, then he had a peculiar blind spot when it came to Broxton House. Maggie would have cut her losses and moved away long ago, if only her mother had agreed to do the same. Guilt enslaved her. Now she lived in a flat over the stables on the other side of the garden, and made only intermittent visits to the house. Its awful emptiness was too obvious a reminder that her mother's poverty was her fault. I took Jasper down to Chapman's Pool. A woman drowned in Egmont Bight, and Nick had to guide the helicopter in to pick up the body. "A tourist, I suppose?" "Presumably," said Maggie, handing her a cup. "Nick would have said if it was someone local." "Typical," snorted Celia crossly. "So Dorset will foot the bill for the helicopter because some inept creature from another county never learned to swim properly. I've a good mind to withhold my taxes." "You usually do," said Maggie, thinking of the final reminders that littered the desk in the drawing-room. Her mother ignored the remark. "How was Nick?" "Hot," said her daughter, remembering how red-faced he'd been when he returned to the car. "And not in the best of moods." She stared into her tea, screwing up the courage to address the thorny issue of money, or more accurately, lack of money, coming into the riding and livery business that she ran from Broxton House stable-yard.